For more than 30 years, both political parties have told themselves the same comforting story about Latino voters, that we're a niche group, that we're primarily motivated by immigration, that we're an aggrieved racial bloc waiting to be activated. And almost everything about that story is wrong. Explaining why it's wrong is why I wrote The Latino Century. I didn't write it to flatter either political party, and I didn't write it to tell Latinos what we're supposed to believe. I wrote it because for decades, the fastest growing segment of the American electorate has been profoundly misunderstood, not just culturally, but politically. And those misunderstandings are now reshaping American democracy in real time. You hear this phrase all the time: Latinos are not monolithic. It's usually said right before campaigns ignore what Latinos are actually telling them. So here's the uncomfortable truth: Latinos are consistent in the ways that matter most politically, just not in the ways that Washington wants us to be. For more than 30 years, every serious poll and survey of Latino voters has told the same story. The economy, jobs, wages, cost of living. Over and over again, economic survival, not ideology, tops the list. And yet, for those same 30 years, neither party has led with an aspirational working class economic agenda for Latinos. Instead, they talk about us. They perform cultural fluency. They obsess over symbolism, but they don't listen. Here's one number that should fundamentally change how you think about American politics. Nearly 4 in 10 Latino voters today are new since 2016. That's not immigration-driven growth. That's U.S.-born second and third and now an even fourth generation American that is aging into political power. Over 80% of Latino voters are U.S.-born, new Latino registrants. This is the Latino century, and it's being driven from the inside out. Now, I want to pause here because whenever I talk about Latino optimism, it needs to be said clearly and honestly. This is not a soft moment in American life. We're living through an era of ICE raids, aggressive deportations, and real fear in Latino communities, including among U.S. citizens and mixed status families. Optimism doesn't mean naivete, doesn't mean denial, and it certainly does not mean safety. Latino optimism has never been about comfort. It comes from living close to the edge, economically, socially, historically, and yet still believing in the American project, even when, perhaps especially when it fails you. That optimism is conditional, it's earned, and increasingly it's being tested. But it's still real, and it still distinguishes Latino voters from every other major demographic group in this country. Latino voters are younger, poor, less college educated, but also more likely to believe that democracy, institutions, and civic life are worth fighting for, and even when those institutions are being used against them. That tension, hope under pressure, is the defining political psychology of the Latino century. This is why Democrats are losing ground with working class Latinos, without fully understanding why. And it's why Republicans keep hitting ceilings even though they can't break through. Latinos don't feel fully at home in either party, and they never really have, which means the next dominant political coalition has not been built yet. See, America's in a demographic foot race between an older, wealthier, more fearful electorate about a changing America and a younger, browner, poorer one that is still deciding whether this democracy is capable of living up to its promise. Latinos aren't here to burn the system down, but we're not willing to be terrorized into silence either. The party and the country that understands that balance will define American politics for a generation. I'm Mike Madrid, author of The Latino Century: How America's Largest Minority is Transforming Democracy. You've been following this series of Understanding the Latino Vote for the Great Transformation. Subscribe, like, share, and most importantly, offer up your comments on what other topics you'd like me to tackle so that we can do further episodes to help you understand more about the Latino vote in America.